This week, magistrates in Durban led the first of a series of lunchtime demonstrations, escalating long-standing grievances about pay, benefits, safety and institutional status. They argue that repeated salary review recommendations have gone unimplemented, that benefits lag far behind those of judges, and that the vision of a single judiciary remains stuck on paper. The Justice Minister Mmamoloko Kubayi is now set to meet the magistracy in early November. But a department stresses that remuneration sits with the Independent Commission for the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers, not the ministry. Now, to unpack the stakes for court performance, independence and public trust, I'm joined by Neelan Karikan, President of JOASA. Neelan, thanks so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you, Hugo, and the lower court judges appreciate him.
So, what's precipitated these protests, and what are the top three non-negotiables you're putting across to government?
This protest has begun as a matter of last resort. I'd like the membership and for yourself to be acutely aware that we've engaged with the minister previously and previous ministers. We've engaged with our Chief Justice. We've engaged with the Magistrates Commission. We've engaged with the Remuneration Committee, which is responsible. And the Minister of Justice is correct when she mentions that the buck stops with the IRC. And remember, the IRC has not been doing their job for the last 17 years. This major review has been in the pipeline since then, and it has been going back and forth. For some reason, there's no real will to get that done. What happens is every 5 years, that committee or commission gets reconstituted, new people come in, and then they have to actually learn the ropes. And when the reports are finally drafted, it's not implemented. You will realize that very recently a report was sent to our President, His Excellency Ramaphosa. And when it went to our President, ultimately it was returned back to the IRC. And the IRC at the time was not even correct. They didn't have enough members. They didn't even have a chairperson. And there were insufficient members for them to do their job. So the magistrates, in the meantime, have been left lagging, whilst all other role players have been improving in terms of benefits, like, for example, prosecutors. And I've explained earlier to yourself that prosecutors currently far surpass the way in which magistrates are remunerated. So you must imagine, the magistrate is sitting on the bench, but the junior prosecutor below us is actually earning more than the magistrate. That anomaly should not be happening.
So how does that make you feel? How does it make your colleagues feel?
It's disappointing, and it's not that we don't believe that prosecutors should be earning what they are earning. They are entitled and they deserve it. They are properly qualified. But remember, as lower court judges in the magistracy, we are generally more qualified, more experienced. We come from the ranks of senior prosecutors, attorneys, senior advocates. So you can imagine, you've been elevated to a position of authority, but yet you don't have financial dignity. We don't have protection in terms of security, home security. We don't have proper retirement funding. We still belong to the Government Employees Pension Fund. Remember, we are public office bearers. We are not civil servants, and that everyone has acknowledged that. But we have been lumped there, and right now our retirement benefits are being eroded almost on a monthly basis. Right now there is talk of change to the actuarial calculation, and that is going to further prejudice us. We're going to have to probably do a mandamus in order to have ourselves extricated from the Government Employees Pension Fund so that a special fund can be created for us so that we get that type of benefit. Remember, High Court judges don't pay towards a pension fund. They get salary for life. So when you see their salary, that is their salary. There's no deduction for pension contribution. But as a magistrate, that is what you see. That net amount of around 50,000 has to cover bond, medical aid, the municipal bills. By the time you are done, and I've explained this before, magistrates are currently undergoing debt review. And to be under debt review is actually an embarrassment. And who should be embarrassed? Why must magistrates personally be embarrassed when the institution and the state mechanisms that are in place, from the IRC, from the ministry to Parliament? Remember, we've been to Parliament at least twice. We've addressed the Portfolio Committee of Justice and Constitutional Development, they are aware and they agree. The Human Rights Commission agrees. The Public Protector agrees. Everybody agrees. But no one's doing nothing.
So, I mean, it's almost an irony, right? That you sit with these various parties, including Parliament, they agree with you, but there is no action. Justice Minister Mmamoloko Kubayi says that she's not the individual that you should be speaking to. What are you hoping to achieve in that conversation?
At the end of the day, that conversation with Honourable Kubayi is very important. And I must highlight that she's generally been very receptive to us in a short space in the ministry. And we've already engaged on one platform insofar as all the issues that we are having. But when it comes to the minister and that office itself, and I speak of the office, it is the Ministry of Justice that is responsible for legislative changes. Any bill or any type of legislative change that needs to happen comes through the ministry, and any constitutional change must happen there. When we talk about single judiciary, we need legislative changes that brings the lower court judges in line with the high court judges. We cannot have the Judicial Service Commission and then you have the Magistrates Commission to appoint judicial officers. Remember, all of them are fit and proper. We have the same qualification. We perform the same law. We actually preside over same cases, whether it's murder, rape, robbery. In fact, the jurisdiction in the Magistrates Court is the highest as a court of first instant because we do everything from domestic violence, harassment, maintenance, adoptions, civil trials, motion court, apostilles, ex partes. You name it, we do it.
So the only thing you're not getting is the benefits associated with that. Neelan, we're going to take a short break, but we will carry on with this conversation as we talk about magistrates across the country that are picketing at lunchtime in order to have their views heard. Hello everyone, we continue with this conversation. This week, magistrates in Durban led the first of a series of lunchtime demonstrations escalating long-standing grievances about pay, benefits, safety and institutional status. And we have in the building Neelan Karikan, President of the Judicial Officers of South Africa. Neelan, let's just pick up the conversation from where we left off earlier. Now, just bring us up to speed with the length and breadth of your grievances. Part of it is that you are not paid enough, but you're not paid nearly as much as the judges, but you do a lot more work than they do.
I don't want to say we do more work than them. We do different types of work. Obviously, they have quite complicated and sophisticated matters, and they are generally much, much more experienced. But we do similar work insofar as the types of matters we deal with. You must understand that legislation has changed to such an extent that the majority of work from the High Court has permeated into the Magistrates Court and into the Regional Court. All these murders, rapes, robberies. So very few of those matters are still in the High Court. And the High Court are specializing mostly with reviews and appeals of matters that come from the lower courts. And they obviously have inherent jurisdiction. But in the Magistrates Court, as I said, those are the types of matters we deal with, and the extent and volume of our court roles is much, to my mind, much more extensive. Can you imagine dealing with at least about 20 domestic violence cases in your court per day with those parties? That's what a magistrate has to do. Our civil trial role is quite congested, and I'm referring particularly to Randburg. And Randburg is my office, but this is a problem that's generally throughout the country, especially in the big centers. And in terms of support service that we get comparative to the High Court, the lower courts are not prioritized. Our machines mostly don't work. We don't have enough interpreters. We don't have enough administrative support. We don't have enough tools of trade. In terms of security, we don't have security except for the building. The building is secured. In terms of the entrance, you'll find a security person here and there in the building. But specifically for magistrates, we don't have that type of security.
Neelan, there's so much that you've outlined that is not being catered to. Now, you've taken upon yourselves to picket at lunchtime, so you are depriving yourselves of lunch, but you're also safeguarding the interests of the citizens of South Africa in the process. Absolutely,
that's our intention. Our intention is to make sure that we demonstrate in a peaceful manner and we get the message out there, because the public at large, for some reason, they don't realize the depth and magnitude of the abuse that magistrates are suffering. And remember, the reason why we've elected to do this during the lunch break is because we don't want to interrupt the courts. And we are exercising our rights in terms of our constitution, in terms of Section 17, that deals specifically with demonstration and picketing. And our lunch break is ordinarily between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. So right now, we've already arranged that we will demonstrate peacefully insofar as placards are concerned at Randburg Court on Monday. It's going to permeate to Protea Magistrates Court in Soweto. They're doing it on the same day. And ultimately, Limpopo has already agreed that on the 23rd, it's going to continue in a wave. And subsequently, the Western Cape is going to be approaching Parliament with a similar type of issue and a memorandum.
So Neelan, as we wrap the conversation, what are timelines for a positive response?
We are already 17 years overdue. The major review is gone back to the IRC. We expect the IRC, the Independent Remuneration Committee, to do their job and fast track and send it back to the president, updating those figures, because those figures are stale now. They must update those figures, give us what we are entitled to, get it to the president. He needs to fast track it to Parliament. And Parliament needs to fast track it because they've already agreed that we are being abused. So they need to pass it as soon as they can to avoid the lower court judges and the judiciary and our courts to be compromised.
So how much time are you giving the authorities to deal with your issues before you escalate?
I can tell you now, time is up. 17 years, we've been to court. We've been speaking to everyone. So time is up. We're giving them no more time. In fact, this should have been done yesterday. So maybe after Monday, they will realize the magnitude and depth of the problem we have in this country. Remember, we've got support from everywhere, inclusive of our traditional leadership, inclusive of our first citizens, the San and the Khoi. Okay, and we've got attorneys, advocates, NADEL, BLA, SAULA, all those institutions that deal with the legal fraternity. They support us.
So everyone except the parties that are critical to making the decision have come to the party. Okay, that's where we're going to leave the conversation. Neelan Karikan, President of JAWASA, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. The lower court judges appreciate it.